That was from Joe. That was from Joseph Bologna. Yes, from Chevalier, the movie that I watched while I was on the plane. We were
Yeah,
talking about that in just
yeah.
a moment. But I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Tony, for giving me a few minutes to get to my house, to get my cords. I tried to use a different backpack, all kind of stuff going on. But thank you so much for a few minutes. Did you make announcements? Do you need to make announcements? I'm not sure what happened while I was gone.
No, I didn't. I didn't do any announcements. I basically was just talking to the people and explaining, listeners, and just explaining the weather in England. You know.
Okay. Do you have your? Is it on? Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us for Community Voices. We are live right here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. It's been a couple of weeks, well, at least 1 week since I've been live in this space, and I just want to say thank you for your patience. Thank you for those of you who join us, even when we have pre-recorded shows. I know that you watch. I know that you listen because you call me, because you send me messages to let me know how you interacted with the show, even though we were not live. And I am grateful for that. I heard Tony say as I was walking back into the studio that we are in pledge drive. So we appreciate your monetary donations. We appreciate your financial support. We could not be here. We would not be here if it were not for you, because you make it possible for us to sustain this radio station, this one of 12 local 100,000 watt community radio stations. You make it possible. And you also make it possible now for us to be a global streaming platform where even if you are in Australia, even if you are in Uganda, even if you are in Brazil, you are listening to us right here. And for that, we are grateful. But I want you to know that beyond your financial resources, we are grateful for you. We are grateful for how you show up in community when we invite you to events. We are grateful for how you call and push back on something that was said, or even when, in the case of last week with Ezekiel, I said, Denise, you had a question and I want to answer it for you. I really appreciate that. Those of you who send me, especially Mr. Henderson, you're always sending me videos, you're sending me YouTube clips. Phyllis Brown, you're sending me articles, you're always sending me Chessmaster Tony Davis, you're sending me book titles. You're always trying to help me grow and learn and be more informed and more educated. And for that, I am grateful. So I want you to know that we do not take it for granted that you are here with us and that you are present within this space. Thank you so much. And so in that spirit of presence, in that spirit of oneness, I greet you with that Zulu tribal greeting, Sawubona. And I say, let us be one in this space as we think about the skills, the gifts, the talents that we have that can move us forward toward collective liberation. I want to use for our EJI tidbit for today. This is not today's tidbit because today is November 14th, but I want to use the tidbit for the 15th, November 15th, in 1830. And I'm doing that on purpose. I want to go all the way back to 1800s because it is going to help us with the conversation that is rooted in Joseph Bologna, who was the Chevalier de Saint Georges in Paris, in France. I want to root this conversation and source it in his life and in his in his legacy to us. And he goes way back to the 1700s. And so it's important for me to use this particular tidbit because it's in the 1800s. When we think way back when, we say 1800 and we think way back when. But on November 15th in 1830, North Carolina makes it illegal to distribute anti-slavery materials and mandates the death penalty for anyone who does so more than once. In 1830, on November 15th, North Carolina makes it illegal to distribute anti slavery materials and mandates the death penalty for anyone who does so more than once. So when we say anti slavery, anti, that prefix means against. So any materials that suggests that it is it is not right, that it is wrong for you to enslave human bodies. Anybody who has the audacity to challenge the fact that that people are able to enslave human bodies, if you speak against it, if you oppose it, if you are on the side of justice, if you are on the side of righteousness, if you are on the side of what is sacred about all humans, then we will mandate the death penalty if you do it more than once. And so we want you to be silent on any issue that does not allow us, the system of white inhumanity, the system of whiteness, the system of what people call white supremacy, the name that I do not use because it implies that white people are supreme, and we know that that is a lie from the pit of hell. And so they want to make sure that you know that if you try to stop us from enslaving humans, then we will make sure that you die. We will make sure that you die. And so I thought that was interesting for today because, again, the song that you were listening to was a symphony, Liberté. It was parts 1 and 2 that are dedicated, that are attributed to Joseph Bologna, who is a mulatto. That's what folks would call it, especially if you're from Louisiana, because he was from Louisiana, but well, he's not from Louisiana, but the man who played the role of the Chevalier, the man who played the role of Joseph Bologna, his name is Kelvin Harrison Jr. He's from Louisiana, and I know that in Louisiana, a lot of times people would use that term mulatto, meaning that you are mixed, you are of mixed heritage, particularly mixed with Black and something else. And so Joseph Bologna, who was then named by Queen Marie Antoinette, he is named the Chevalier. He's named the Knight. He's a part of the King's Guard. He is named that he is perhaps the first African American, because we still seem to operate in this ideology of if you've got one drop of Black blood, that makes you Black. And so even though he's a mulatto, even though he is mixed with French and African American, they consider him, when we talk about the annals of history as it relates to his legacy as a musician, as a fenceman, as a dancer, as a marksman. They say that he was the first African American to have this kind of, to achieve this kind of success, where the very Queen of France names him to the King's Guard as the Chevalier. And so when we think about his life as a Black man and how he was the excellent Black man that his father asked him to be, then we think about how this world, even now in 2023, we do not want you to talk about African American studies. It is no wonder that I did not know about Joseph Bologna. I don't know about you, Toney, but every time I learn something about Black folks that I did not know, something that I feel like has been hidden, something that I feel like was intentionally made unknown to me so that I would not understand more about my heritage, it makes me mad. Do you have that feeling? Does that happen to you?
Yes, it does. And I have seen the movie Chevalier, and I was, and I was surprised as I did a little research on him and everything, and especially when you talked about Louisiana, because Louisiana, especially down southern Louisiana, Lake Charles, New Orleans, all those cities are basically named after French cities because of the French used to occupy that area. And and it's so important that Black people in Louisiana learn more about this connection, because there are a lot of Black people who did so many things in France, who were so important to France, but not just in France, but as they came out to the United States, that came over to America, they did a lot of great things also. And so yes, it does make me mad when you find out something and you're like, wow, then they just don't want you to know.
Well, I don't want to say that just people in Louisiana need to know
Right.
more about their African American history, the role and that Black people have played in making us who we are and helping us to realize the gifts and the talents that live among us. All of us need to learn. And it is impossible to learn when you are up against a legislature, when you are up against a system of white inhumanity that does all that it can to erase the history of Black folks. And so I was on the plane, and because I had 10 hours on the plane, I was thinking, yes, this would be good for me to watch a movie, because 10 hours, like I need to do something. I can sleep for 10 hours. I need to do something. And so I was taking the time to walk through every movie. Like, I want to see what all the movies are that I have to choose from. And then I want to go back. I want to make a note of those that are interesting to me. And then I want to go back and look at those that are interesting to me. And then I want to read the synopsis. I want to say, oh, is this something? So on the way to France, I did not choose to watch Sawubona. For whatever reason, I read the synopsis because it was a Black man on the picture. So of course I'm already drawn to the fact that there's a Black man on the picture, but I just wasn't interested in it for whatever reason. I don't know if it was because he was a violinist. I was like, I don't know. But on the way home from France, I said, no, I feel like I need to watch this movie, and I'm so glad that I did. And so you have this Black man, Joseph Bologna, who is the product of a slave owner. His father was a slave owner, and his mother was an enslaved person. So the father, for me, and I don't know how you feel, Toney, but for me, it is impossible for me to believe that a person who is enslaved gives consent to the slave owner to have their bodies, right? Like I don't. It's hard for me. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm just saying that the way that my mind works, if you own me and you come to me and you want sex, I don't see how it's possible for me to say no. Because you own me, I am your property. By saying no, I open myself up to all manner of evil, all manner of degradation, all manner of dehumanization. So I could see how a person would say yes simply because it will extend my life. And there's a reason why I want my life to be extended. Perhaps I have children, perhaps I have a lover that I have consented to who looks like me, like for whatever reason. So here we have George Bologna, who is the slave owner who takes, who rapes Nanon, who is the mother of Joseph Bologna, and she gets pregnant and she has Joseph. And at some point, the father, the slave owner, decides that the baby should no longer be on the plantation, that the baby needs to be separated from his mother. And so he snatches the baby, kidnaps the baby, captures the baby from his mother, and then takes him to this academy in France. I'm not sure where the plantation was, but takes him to this academy in France, and basically says to the leader of the academy, look, you want this slave child here because the slave child has gifts and talents that you say that this academy is about nurturing gifts and talents. Well, this particular slave child has a particular talent as it relates to the violin. He's a virtuoso, so it's a particular talent. It's skilled and gifted in the area of playing the violin. So this is the place where his talent needs to be cultivated, that he needs to grow, that it would be to use the word that church people use, it would be a blessing to you to have this child here. And when the father leaves the son, his own son, that he has by this enslaved Black woman, Nanon, when he leaves the child there, he says to him, you must be excellent. You must be excellent always, because there's no way that a person can tear down an excellent Frenchman. So in all that you do, in everything that you put your hands to, you must be excellent. And when we look at the history of Joseph Bologna, we see that he lived into his father's words. He is excellent as a marksman. He is excellent as a violinist. He is excellent as a fenceman. He is excellent as a composer. He is excellent as a fashion. He's a fashionista. He's excellent as a dancer. So everything about his life is excellent. And yet, and still, it's not enough for the people in France, because he may be excellent, but he is still Black. And because of his Blackness, they will not allow him to lead. They will not allow him to be they will not allow him to be in a position to where he gives orders, to where people have to respond to his orders, where people have to do what he says to do. They cannot bring themselves to do that because he is Black. And I was drawn to this conversation, not just because this is a Black man, not just because the one who is playing the role of this Black man is from the South, as I am from the South, but because of this notion, this idea that Black people must be excellent. No matter what we do, we must be excellent. And I grew up in a household where I was told that, where I was taught that I have to be better than the best just to be considered mediocre. That's the way my mother taught me. And so it was always about raising the standard, always about making sure that I achieve more than my counterparts, my neighbors, whether they were Black or white, it didn't matter, but especially if it were a white person, I had to raise the bar. And then after I raised my own bar, I had to exceed my own bar that was raised. So it was always this push to be more and better and more and better and more and better. And I don't think that we stop to think about the trauma that exacts on a body when you are always trying to strive for excellence, when really who you are is more than enough. Right? Who you are is more than enough. But to continue to achieve and strive for this excellence, it wreaks havoc on your body. It wreaks havoc on your mind. And I'm not sure that we stop to think about that. And I think that's what happens to Joseph Bologna, because he is excellent in all things. And it comes a point in his life where he realized that even that excellence is still not enough.
Yeah, I agree and I understand, because most Black people, and even especially ones I grew up with, that's all we heard. You know, even though we were living in the projects, even though it was always, you got to be better. You got to be better. You know, you need to be your best, and you had to be. You had to work harder. You know, you had to work harder than the average white person. You had to be 10 times better. But at the end of the day, no matter how better you were, no matter how you strive, no matter what, you always knew, you know, in the back of your mind that it still would never be enough.
And so what happens to Joseph Bologna is what happens to a lot of us as Black people in particular, is where we begin to believe and put our hope and our trust and our faith in our excellence. And so we deprive ourselves of play. We deprive ourselves of enjoyment. We deprive ourselves of just having fun. We deprive ourselves of just being human, because we focus everything on our excellence. So in our free time, we are studying. In our playtime, we are training. In our fun times, we are learning, we are reading, we are researching, we are educating ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to be human, because to be excellent becomes the most important thing, because we believe that our excellence is our way out. We believe that if we are excellent, then we will be accepted. We believe that if we are excellent, then we will be embraced. We believe that if we are excellent, we will be loved. We believe that if we are excellent, we will belong. We believe that if we are excellent, we will be seen as human. And so that becomes our ultimate goal, not relationship, not love, not anything other than excellence. And then if we live in the world of excellence, that gets us closer to the world of whiteness. Therefore, the world of whiteness will embrace us and we will find ourselves among friends. And so Joseph Bologna lives this out, that his mother, at some point in the movie Chevalier, his father dies. And when his father dies, upon his death, he frees Nanon, Joseph Bologna's mother. And when she is free, she is then sent to live with Joseph and in France, and they are reunited. And when they get together, they are reunited once again. There is a strain in their relationship. There's a strain on their relationship because Joseph Bologna believes that his mother abandoned him. He believes that his mother allowed their separation. He believed that his mother did not love him enough to fight for him. He believed that his mother was okay with him being sent off to this school where he would be excellent and where white people would come to love him, where the French would come to love him. That's what he believed. So when he sees his mother, the first thing that happens is that though he wants to hug her, though he wants to feel her embrace that he has not felt for years and years, for decades, he cannot bring himself to because he is traumatized. He is hurt by the fact that this woman who should have loved me allowed me to be separated. And I began to think about this system of white inhumanity, this system of whiteness that always pits us against each other. So now the slave owner is the one who separated the family. The slave owner is the one who wreaked havoc between this mother and her son. And yet the mother and son have a difficult time finding their way back to each other because the son blames the mother. The son does not know. It's not his fault. He was a child. He does not know. He does not understand that his mother did not say yes to this. His mother fought for him. At one point in the story, the mother says, I fought for you every day. I tried to get to you every day. They had to come after me. They had to seek me. They had to capture me again and again. They had to return me to the plantation again and again because I put my body on the line. I put my life on the line for my child. You have no idea. And that's exactly right. The children have no idea. And I think that that's another thing that the system of white inhumanity continues to deprive us of even now, because you keep lying about our history, because you keep trying to erase us as humans, because you will not allow our legacies to sing and to shine. Our children are growing up not understanding the fight, not understanding the struggle, not knowing that our ancestors fought every single day for us. We keep telling this story like, well, they were just slaves. They didn't have no power. They couldn't do nothing but get whooped. They was nothing but, no, they fought every single day. Even if they lost, they still fought again. They lived to fight the next day. And we do not share that story, that history, that richness with our children. And so our children do not know the fight that they have within themselves. They continue to think that if I could just be better, if I could just improve, if I could just do good, if I could just be seen as right, then the world of whiteness will love me. And that is simply not true.
I think as you were talking, I thought about there's a quote from, and I think it's during Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech in 1963. It's a 63 at the Washington Monument. I may get the year wrong, but it's a quote that it was used as a rallying cry for a lot of Black people, but now it has become this detriment to me, to Black people, as white inhumanity uses it. And Dr. King said that, that basically I want to see a day where my 4 young children will be judged by their character, not the color of their skin. And so now, when that was said, Black people looked at that as saying that, hey, it goes back to that excellent, that if my character is excellent, that if my life is excellent, that if I'm doing the best, then I'm going to be looked at in this way. And like you said, I will be accepted, I would be embraced because, I'm being my best. But now has flipped. Listen, and now it is every time something happens where you start to talk about race, you start to talk about African American studies. Even when the Supreme Court was talking about the voter laws, the voter suppression laws, and they said, well, that can't be right because Dr. King said you want to be judged by the content of your character, by the color and not the color of your skin. And if you're going to use that, then that means race is going to be a part. And we don't want to have race. We're trying to take race out. And so now it becomes this thing that a lot of young Black people, young Black children, or young Black adults are looking at this fact that, oh, if my character is good, then I don't have to worry about the color of my skin. I don't have to worry about being Black because now they're telling me it's not about race anymore. It's about being, they will say it's about being just human. It's about this, but in reality, it's not, because all you have to do is look at what's going on behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. What's going on behind the curtain? And what's going on behind the curtain is white and humanity is still pulling the strings. If I can get you to believe this, and you don't know your history, you don't know where you came from, you don't know the people who fought for you, you don't know the people who sacrificed for you, all you know is what I'm telling you, then you can control even more of the minds of Black people, and that's something that we have to start to understand and look at.
I think we forget that the speech, if I'm not mistaken, that part about being judged by the content of our character, it's part of King's dream. Right? Mm-hmm. Like Dr. King said, I have a dream. When we are dreaming, we are in an alternate state of consciousness. When we are dreaming, we are not dealing with the reality of our situation, what we want. Our dreams give us hope. Our dreams give rise to our imagination. Our dreams say, this is what I wish that I could live into. And so when Dr. King is saying, I have a dream that one day it would be possible that you are not concerned about the color of my skin, that you are only concerned about the content of my character, that when you look at me, you will see human. When you look at me, you will see divine. When you look at me, you will see worthy. When you look at me, you will see valuable. That is my dream. That is my hope. That is what I'm fighting for every single day, that the reality that we have right now, where race is an issue, where race drives us, where race divides us, where race dehumanizes Black folks, that one day this will no longer be the reality, but the reality will be what I'm dreaming it will be, that my color, the color of my skin does not matter. That was his dream. And so what is happening right now, based on what you're saying, Toney, is that people are legislating based on the dream that Dr. King has, which has not yet become a reality, because the reality is that you are still concerned about the color of my skin, that the color of my skin still dictates how you treat me. It still dictates how you see me. It still dictates where you want me to live. It still dictates whether or not I should have health care. It still dictates whether or not you want your child to be my friend. It still dictates my very life. And so we forget that Dr. King's dream is still that. It is a dream that many of us continue to fight for, but it is not our reality. So when we think about our reality, what Joseph Bologna had to learn, which is the same thing that all Black people must learn even now in 2023, is that your color, the color of your skin, absolutely matters to the world. And so it does not matter how excellent you are. It does not matter how gifted you are. It does not matter how skilled you are. You are still Black as a reality in this world. And until we live into the dream, you got to pay attention to that.
Yeah, and it's going back to when we did the show on Halloween, and I was talking about trick or treat, and we're constantly, Black people are constantly being tricked. They're constantly being tricked, and we're being tricked based on the treat that we get. When we talk about, and we don't mention this a lot of people don't, we don't talk about this a lot. We talk about white inhumanity, but built within white inhumanity is white nationalism. And so when other races, other ethnic groups come into this country, whether it is Afghanistan, from the Middle East, from South America, Central America, when these other ethnic groups come in, one of the things that they are indoctrinated into is that if you really want to be considered part of the fabric of America, if you really want to get into the American dream, if you really want to be this so-called Americanized, it's one thing you have to do. And that one thing is that you have to treat Black people the way we treat Black people. You have to look at Black people as second class. You have to look at them in a dehumanized way. And then we will embrace you. In fact, if you look at a lot of Black people who have bought into this idea, they treat Black people, they treat their own people in a dehumanized way, or they treat them as like, and I think we talked about this once before, is how my relatives, once they moved from the projects to the suburbs, it was almost like, we don't want nothing to do with you because we're better than you now, because of where we are, our status, and our status is telling us that we're better than you, and we have to treat you like you're less, and we have to treat you in a certain way. And because of this nationalism that a lot of people buy into, that's where it really becomes so problematic. And at the end of the day, you're still looked at, judged by the color of your skin.
Well, this nationalism is a lie on its face because it espouses the notion that there is a pure race, that white people are pure, that they're like, you can trace your legacy back to where you are just white. And the history of our country, that is a lie. Like, that's why you have Joseph Bologna's, because you had white enslavers who raped Black people who were enslaved. And so there is no pure race. And so when we talk about the history and the legacy of our country, we have to begin to talk about and uproot these lies and that idea, that nationalism, that this is a white country, that idea in itself is false. It is a myth. It is, and it cannot be realized. You can, and they're even doing all these 23andMe's now trying to prove that I'm 100% white. And it's just not. It's just not true. And so we've got to stop lying. That's what we need to do. We just got to stop lying. Let me get this caller. Caller, you're live on the air, KBF 88.3. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, speaking of dog, those in here. Can we do anything about that echo?
We don't hear the echo.
Okay, well, I'll continue. Now, the biggest thing we have to look at is the technology. Now, we know technology is the science of deception. But we do have to realize that we are 9 ether beings.
Are you near your telephone? Are you near the radio?
No, I'm not. I have the radio all the way down. Well, maybe I'll come back. But let me say this. Good, better, best. Never let it rest. Till our good is better and our better is best. And we know the media has to do a lot with the deception. Or like I say, it's hard to talk with all this comeback on me. Okay, peace and love to all.
I want to get this announcement in from Phyllis Brown. Thursday, November 16th at 6 p.m., that's day after tomorrow. Thursday, November 16th at 6 p.m., Mosaic Templars Cultural Center, in partnership with Little Rock Central High School National Historic Site, presents a free screening of the film Teal, the true story of Mamie Teal Mobley's relentless pursuit of justice for her 14-year-old son, Emmett. A post-film discussion with the award-winning filmmaker Keith A. Beauchamp, who has devoted the past 29 years telling the story of Emmett Till. Mosaic Templars Cultural Center is located at 501 West 9th Street. So that's day after tomorrow on November 16th at 6 p.m., a free screening of the film Till. And please stay for the discussion with the filmmaker, Keith Beauchamp. So a lot of times we leave before the discussion, and the discussion, I think, is even more rich than the film itself. And Emmett Till, I believe those stories, those historical references to his life as the start of the civil rights movement. A lot of people talk about it being the Montgomery bus boycott. A lot of people talk about it being when Rosa Parks did not get up out of her seat. But I believe that if we're going to look for a kickstart, if we're looking for a kickstart, that it would be the death of Emmett Till as a 14-year-old in Money, Mississippi, who was accused falsely of whistling at a woman in the store, and his life was taken as a result of that. And his mother allowed the world to grieve with her at just the sight of her child's body as a result of the dehumanization that was inflicted upon him because of this false charge. And then when they found out, though, it was recently when the woman who said that she who lied on Emmett Till actually confessed to the lie. And there were Black people talking about, leave her alone, don't worry about it. I just don't understand our mentality sometimes. I just don't understand. So again, next day after tomorrow, November 16th, 6 p.m. at Mosaic Templars on 501 West 9th Street. Come and see a free screening of Teal and stay for the discussion with the award-winning filmmaker Keith Beauchamp. And then also, Phyllis Brown strongly recommends us, all of us, me, Toney, and everybody who's listening, to watch the documentary Exterminate the Beast. Exterminate the Beast. Put that on your list so that you can watch. I definitely will put it on mine so that I can watch as well. And so what I want to get to before we go about Joseph Bologna is that in his drive for being excellent, he really was tricked into believing that because he was excellent, he would be able to achieve his goal of becoming director of the Paris Opera. That was his goal. That's all he wanted, was to direct the Paris Opera. He was the best person for the job. He was the most excellent, gifted, talented person for the job. But the Queen, Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, chose not to allow him the job because she had received notification from those who would be under his tutelage that they would not submit to a Black man. They would not take orders for a Black man, from a Black man. They would not receive instruction from a Black man. And so even though Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, was his friend, so he thought, she turned on him on the basis of his race. And once he realized, because his mama was already trying to tell him, I'll never forget, the best line for me, my favorite line in the movie was when his mother, who had been reunited with him after his father died, when his mother said something to him about, he was composing an opera because they were going to compete. Him and Gluck were going to compete to see who would be the best person chosen for director of the opera. And he's working on his opera, and his mother says, "Do you remember the song that I used to sing to you as a child? Do you remember?" And she begins to hum. And you could tell in his eyes that he remembered the song. You could tell in his body that he remembered. And she says, "You should include that in your opera." And he said, "I cannot include that because we have standards. We have standards in France." And she was like, "What?" And so he says, don't try to act like you know my world. Don't try to act like you understand my world." And she looks at him and she says, "Your world? Do you not understand that you are nothing but a tourist? That's what you are, a tourist in their world. That's what you are." He's thinking that, no, this is my world. I'm rubbing shoulders with the French and the white. I'm one of them. They love me. They're my friends. And she's like, "Baby, you need to understand that they are just allowing you to look and see and think that you are participating when really you are not. You are nothing but a tourist." But he's trying to do this. He's trying to become the director of the Paris Opera. That's all he wants. But because of his race, he's not allowed. And when he gets over the trauma, because he has to process the trauma of being dismissed by who he thought was his friends. That's when he said to himself, "What do I have?" Because his best friend Joseph had been trying to get him to participate in the protest against the queen, because there were people who were starving in the street. So his friend had been trying to get him to participate in the protest, trying to get him to come to the conversations and to the dialogues, trying to get him to be an activist, trying to get him to be an advocate, trying to get him to raise his voice. But Joseph Bologna didn't think that was his place. Like, he wasn't worried about it, because no, he's friends with the queen. But when he realizes that he is hindered by his blackness, he begins to ask himself, "What do I have in my hands?" And what I have in my hands is a violin. And what I know how to do is play this violin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what I have. I'm going to use my skills. I'm going to use my gifts. I'm going to use my talents. And I am going to put them to work on behalf of the people. And so he puts together this concert. He charges people at the door. And he says all of the proceeds are going to go towards the protest. All of the proceeds are going to go towards the struggle. All of the proceeds are going to be used to make sure that the people are raising up, their voices are being heard, and that the queen understands that we are the ones with the voice, not you. And so he begins to use all that he has on behalf of the people so that he can do his part. And that becomes my question for today. What is your part? What do you have in your hands? What skills do you have? What talents do you have? What resources do you have that you can use to further this struggle towards collective liberation? Because if you are still thinking that because you are excellent, that you have arrived, if you are still thinking that because you are excellent, white people, the system of whiteness loves you, if you are still thinking that because you are excellent, the system of white inhumanity will embrace you and you can be part of their organization, part of their fraternity, part of their country club, you are wrong. You are living a lie. Joseph Bologna was living a lie. He was living into the name they gave him, Chevalier. But once he realized that was a name that you gave me so I could be your coon, once he realized that, and he said, "No, I'm going to be the black man that I am," then he took on his own name and he recognized his own identity. And he says, "I'm going to use what I have to fight for me and to fight for the people." What do you have that you can use to fight? Because everybody's got something. All of us are gifted. All of us are talented. All of us got skills. That's why the flyer says, if you're looking on Facebook, you got skills. How can you use them to further us in the cause of collective liberation? Because we still have yet to realize Dr. King's dream. His dream is not yet a reality for us. And until it is, your color will dictate your destiny. Oh, here's Phyllis Brown. I made a mistake. The documentary is Exterminate All the Brutes. It is an exploration of the exploitative and genocidal aspects of European colonialism from America to Africa and its impact on society today. Okay, so Phyllis Brown is calling all of us to watch the documentary Exterminate All the Brutes. That's the name of it. Exterminate All the Brutes. It is an exploration of the exploitative and genocidal aspects of European colonialism from America to Africa and its impact on society today. The question on the floor for you is, what skills do you have? How are you gifted? How are you talented? And how are you using those skills, those gifts, those talents to move us forward towards collective liberation? Because if you think that color does not matter in this world, you are living a lie. You are delusional. You are imaginative. You are not living the reality of our world. Is it possible for us to realize Dr. King's dream? Yes. Is it possible for us to manifest a world where only the content of our character matters? Yes. Is it possible that our skin color will no longer be the issue? Yes. But is that today? No.
I know one of the questions that people may be asking themselves or telling themselves, well, I don't have any gifts. I don't have any skills. I don't have any talents that I can use in this struggle in the court. And my answer to you is yes, you do. Absolutely, you have. Even if it's nothing more than getting the calendar, the tidbit calendar, and every day reading it to someone or telling someone about it. I don't know how it happened, but I now get the EJI tidbit on my phone. And so when I see it, and I automatically tell one of my children, hey, read this, or my next door neighbor, I saw the one, I want to say from Saturday, and I showed it to my neighbor on Sunday, where a mob of 700, these two young black males, young black men, they were accused of raping and killing a white woman and thrown in a creek. And because they were picking pecans nearby, they were automatically accused. And they were going back. This was in Texas, and because they were being taken back to this jail from Houston back to the jail to stand trial. And armed white men stopped the car they were traveling in, forced the sheriffs to give them the two men. Then they proceeded to parade them into the town and hang them. 700, and this was like in 1935. And when I showed that to my neighbors, they were like, you could see the anguish in their faces, and that's something that I think will help so much when you start talking about, do I have the gift, do I have the talent? Yes, even if it's nothing but just some information that you're giving to other people, it helps.
Well, I was anticipating the question of what's the difference between a gift and a talent, or maybe it was my own question. And I looked it up, and according to the research, when you think about gifts, you think about something that you have that you did not work for. So there was a moment when I was in Florida with my brothers and my mom where I sketched a picture of a woman that I saw on TV and brought it out to them, and they all said, when did you start sketching? Like, nobody in our family sketches. We don't know anybody who is a graphic artist in our line. Like, where did this come from? So because I have not taken any classes, because I have not done any work, then you say, well, okay, this is something that was endowed. Like, this is something that you just have innately. It's part of who you are, as part of your makeup. And so when you think about gifts, there are some things that you are able to do that you cannot explain. But then there are talents that you have that are nurtured, that are cultivated. So talents would be people who are basketball players or people who are public speakers, orators, where you have gone to class, you have taken, you have been mentored, where you have put in some practice, where you've put in some hours to hone this talent that you have cultivated. You are working to make it, to get better. You are working to improve. You are working to become. You are working to be. And so you are putting in the work. You are putting in the effort. And that would be what you consider to be your talents. So there are those of you, so when you are thinking about what do I have that I can use in this struggle towards collective liberation, there's something that you know how to do that you cannot explain. That's your gift. And there are some things that you've been working on. If you stop for a moment and you just think about it, you've been working on it. You look back over your life. You've been doing this for a long time and you didn't really even think about it until now. Those are your talents. So your gifts, your talents, your skills, those things that you are working towards, what is it that you have? And so the song that I played at the very beginning to source this conversation was the Symphony Liberté, parts 1 and 2. And I chose it for a couple of reasons. Number one, because I like what it did in my body. Like as you're listening to it, it's kind of calm in the beginning. And then it begins to swell. And then it begins to push. And then it's almost like it explodes. It's like we get to the point where, look, something has to change. But when you think of, when I thought back on the movie, it's also the song that was played when he passed out the flyers and said that we are going to have this concert. The Queen said, if you have this concert, I will have you arrested. I will have you detained. You will not be allowed. I will strip you of everything that you have. And I thought back to his mama telling him, you always got a choice. No matter what in this life, you've always got a choice. And so the man came and was going to kill him, put the gun in his face. And he still said, I'm going right on back up here on this stage and I'm going to play this song because I believe in liberty. He made the choice to put his body on the line using the gifts and the talents and the skills that he has for the sake of the people. And right here on Community Voices, this Tuesday, we implore you to use your gifts and your talents and your skills for the sake of the people, even if it means putting your body on the line, because the struggle is worth it. Well, your girl Lola is right here, ready. Your girl Lola is
She
right
hit us hard with that last part, did she? She hit us hard. Oh, she hit us hard.
And I want to make sure that we bring her in with this song from Jill Scott. That's who I'm hoping that we're gonna bring you in. Yeah, I guess this is what we'll do. We'll bring us in with Jill Scott so that you don't touch that dial. You stay here for your girl Lola because you've got 2 hours of jazz coming your way. You don't want to miss it.
Man, that was good. I enjoyed that song. It was beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. World Traveler. Yes.